And here we are. We are back, guys. We are we
Welcome
are
back.
we are finally live, and I don't think there's any like annoying buzz this time because I have it set to the right microphone. We're still working out the kinks. So we've got another set of three speakers, and these guys are some of my favorite researchers and podcasters, and all the way around great guys. Two of which were at Strange Realities 2019 last year. So I want to welcome back Soraya Askath. Say hello,
Hi.
Soraya.
No.
And Joshua Cutchin.
Hi, everybody. I'm still alive.
And yeah, you're still alive. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, always
And
good to hear.
Timothy Renner of the Strange Familiars podcast.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
I kind of feel like Dr. Evil because the cat is on top of me.
I was going to ask if that's the Soraya as cat.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
and now she wants to get down, but she doesn't know how to let go.
yeah, we are we are visited by Soraya's cat tonight. So this should be interesting, guys. We're gonna go about probably 45 to an hour here. Just whatever we get to talking to. So let's start. We are going to start talking about you guys' presentations, what you guys are going to be talking about, and we'll just kind of take it from there. And why don't we just start with you, Soraya? What are you going to be talking about at the Strange Realities 2020 coming up?
What am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about time and different ways of looking at the paranormal, and how time doesn't seem to work the way I did a podcast on what I can only call a mechanism that I suspect has something to do with how the paranormal works. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. And it involves around how time doesn't work the way we think it does. But it's also going to be about looking at other ways we can look at this phenomena and the ways it's interconnected, particularly by poltergeist phenomena.
Okay. And what's what kind of like research have you done? Like who's like some of the authors that you've kind of picked up from all this? Is Eric Wargo one of the authors you're talking about?
Eric Wargo definitely clicked certain things in my head, but it's really just a conglomeration of everything at some point clicking and making this sort of make sense to me in a way that like just seemed to work. I don't know if that's what's happening, but there's no easy way of dismissing it either or proving it, unfortunately.
So you're almost presenting like a unified field theory?
No, it's not. It doesn't explain what the paranormal is, but it may explain some of the way that the paranormal manifests and why.
Okay, that's the mechanism. Okay,
right. That's why I call it a mechanism rather than any kind of like a overall theory. And it's how it always works, but in some cases. And it's a matter of taking time not as something that's cause and effect. Or it is cause and effect, but not always from past to present, but sometimes from future to present. So yeah, Eric Wargo kind of like spawned that on, as did I can't remember his name. He wrote a book on UFOs as poltergeist phenomena.
Oh, Eric Wallette.
Yes, that's it, Eric Wallette. Like his book, I read his book, I loved it, and I thought he's onto something, but there's more to it than this.
Okay.
That's really exciting because that might actually dovetail with, like Tim, I'm looking beyond where the footprints end. That sounded kind of funny. To some other projects, and one of them that actually might, I might have to steal some of your ideas, like I apparently stole your wilderness poltergeist idea.
Well, you named it. The name is totally yours.
No. It's but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I remember listening to that podcast, and I was it was one of those episodes where I wasn't paying complete attention, and because I wasn't, I couldn't follow it. It's a complex enough idea that you have to be like dedicated to figuring it out. So I'm going to go back and listen to that before I hear your presentation.
It's hard to explain too. Tim here suggested I apply some visual ideas to it to help kind of like make it easier to comprehend, and that might help.
That did help me. Like, just I guess being a somewhat visual person, that helped me sort of grasp more because I had heard people describe time as a ribbon that's laid over on itself before, and where it's touching is where you get these bleed throughs and stuff.
Right, right.
And then I thought, well, maybe it's not that organized. Maybe it's like a tangled ball of string that's just smashed together.
Yeah.
And then you said, no, it's more like a lake. And that actually made a lot more sense to me because it's like you're in the lake and it's, all around you.
And a big event is going to make bigger ripples and more likely that people are going to pick up on it and respond to it without realizing that that's what's happening.
Right.
Well, you think about those random number generators and whatnot that were positioned, before 9/11 that seemed to, in hindsight, indicate that something big was going to happen. So that idea definitely tracks.
Yeah, that whole idea about time being the event causing the ripples that go to the left, to the right, and that being back and forward in time, that is extremely fascinating to me.
I mean, it also dovetails with, the work of Daryl Bem and his pre-sentiment experiments from Cornell University.
Yes, it does. Yep.
Right.
I applied as many of the psi, like when I looked through this, I said, okay, what psi experiments have we done that holds up this? And there's quite a few of them.
Well, psi is the most reputable field of paranormal research, hands down, in my opinion. It's the one where when I talk to people about their buy-in of believing in this stuff, I'm like, if you can just buy this one thing that is like practically scientifically proven in a laboratory, I mean, I think that if it was just for a slight shift in paradigm, we wouldn't even be having this as a debate anymore. But here we are.
And I think an easy example is something like a banshee. So, someone experiences a banshee and they know a loved one is going to die, but the first event is the loved one dying, and that sends waves of energy backwards, and the person may not interpret it as like a psychic revelation. They may not go, oh, so-and-so is going to die, or have a dream. Instead, it just kind of hits their unconscious, and their unconscious, using, energy that's now traumatizing to them, creates a poltergeist.
So in that case, what you're saying is that it sends the energy kind of back in time.
Right.
And that creates this phenomenon that is almost like the harbinger.
Right. It's our response to that energy on an unconscious level creates a poltergeist. Now, in some cases, if it's something massive like the Mothman, it might be that there's also an other that sees this huge reservoir of energy open up and tries to get through and communicate with us.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're not silent because we think you're crazy. We're silent because we're chewing on it. So
yes, it's hard to wrap your brain around. I don't know how I wrapped my brain around it the first time. It was kind of there, and I'm like, I need to write this down, and I don't know how.
So what you're saying is like you mentioned the Mothman. So we're saying that it's like manifesting some kind of like physical entity in a sense.
Well, I think he's saying that it creates like a gate. It creates like some kind of gate or rip that other things can come through as well.
Right.
So okay.
With the Mothman, you had a perfect storm. You had an area that was already had a lot of weird energy to it. You had, according to John Keel, a lot of people who were either psychic or latently psychic. And you had an incredibly traumatic event that happened. I mean, what could be worse for a small community than a bridge collapse killing all those people on Christmas Eve or whatever it was?
Right.
I mean, this is something that's going to send reverberations through time.
Yeah, so extending the lake metaphor, if time is a lake and you've got these reverberations and whatnot, Mothman's like a bass,
Yeah.
that jumped, that managed because there were so many, ripples or whatever. There was so much wake on the lake. There's a rhyme. There's so much wake on the lake that it ended up just jumping out of the water for a little bit.
Right.
So there's a question here from YouTube, Soraya. They want to know if you're familiar with something. Can you see that on the screen?
I can't even pronounce that, but no, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. Let us know what that is in the put that in the chat, because that might be something that is
I definitely want to look into that.
Okay.
But also, like with that type of thing, I mean, you have that perfect storm. And so some people would have dreams of things like the presence in the river and stuff like that. But other people were probably picking it up on an unconscious level, which is what creates poltergeist activity, is trauma on an unconscious level where it has no outlet. And so it may have also created a tulpa that became the Mothman. It may be that something else there saw look at this big pool of energy. Let's utilize this. It could be any number of things. Like I said, it's not an explanation for what happened, but maybe more of a mechanism of why this stuff happened for the 3 years or so before the bridge collapse and then stopped at the bridge collapse.
Okay, or even something like Soraya, like an egregore, right? I mean,
Right,
could that
right.
be what Mothman
Sort
is?
of,
A
sort of.
tulpa that is inhabited by an actual entity? Then you're getting really complicated.
Yeah,
at
and
that point.
the problem is we can't prove any of that stuff. You know, we
Right,
don't know
sure.
what the stuff
Falsifiable,
was.
yeah.
It could be anything from a tulpa to an actual other to a phantasm. I mean, you know, we have no way of knowing, and we may never know.
I'm personally looking for Mothman nests and the eggs that are in them that hatch the baby Mothman because cryptozoology.
I want a baby Mothman, Tim.
Me too.
I'll get one for you.
Soraya, forgive me if you mentioned this on that episode where you outlined this theory, and if it spoils too much of the lecture, don't address it. But does time dilation and missing time, is this idea account for that? I can't recall.
I don't think I addressed that.
Okay.
Tim and I were talking about the other night. Seth had once said that time moves at the speed that your brain can process events.
I knew Seth was going to get mentioned tonight.
Yeah,
well,
See, that's precognitive.
there's-
Precognitive.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's, regardless of what Seth was, there's a lot of really deep wisdom in the stuff that was written. But if you look at that, it kind of makes sense because when you're bored and sitting around, time crawls. When you're busy, time flies. So if you're having a weird experience and an abnormal experience, maybe time's moving in a completely different way. You're perceiving it in a completely different way, and when you get done with it, you're like, oh, I'm missing time, but you weren't. It's just that you were processing so much stuff that time just jumped almost.
Okay, I agree with part two. Part one is a direct refutation of the theory of relativity, though.
Yeah.
I mean, which is
We're
still
talking
a theory, right?
We're talking subjective versus empirical.
Okay, fair enough.
So interesting comment in the YouTube section. It says Kill said in Eighth Tower that Mothman UFOs and other paranormal event were control
Right.
mechanisms.
And
Is
Valet
that related to you to your idea?
No. But it could be used that way. I mean,
Okay.
if something wanted to use it as a control mechanism, there would be the energy to do it. I guess the mechanism I'm talking about is that you're having an event that generally creates poltergeist activity, but the event's actually happening in the future. It's happening first. We know that stuff moves backwards in time. Daryl Bem's experiment is kind of one of the things that triggered that,
Right.
because when people would see images of violence or sexuality, that's what they were picking up in the brain scans moments before the image was even chosen, which suggests that, yes, this stuff moves backwards. So that's a very minor thing. That's just an image versus, again, a bridge collapse in a small community killing however many people it killed in the holidays. Like how much worse can that be?
They could have all had diarrhea.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh. No, that's an excellent point. There's a critical mass of things that are of things that are happening that just sort of echo backwards. That tracks.
And you see stuff like 9/11 when you mentioned with the random number generator and stuff.
Right.
That, and plenty of people had dreams of 9/11. Plenty of people had did artwork of the Twin Towers on fire.
Yeah, the
like
iconography
that.
was there. The iconography was there in place for decades. Yeah.
So, I mean, some of it could just be that was an obvious target, but I suspect that people were picking up. But unlike the Mothman, where it's a small town and it affected a very distinct community in a very distinct area, 9/11 kind of had a widespread effect.
Mhm.
So you didn't have a Mothman-like effect from something like 9/11 because it wasn't focused enough.
Yeah, and you can see little minor syncs that sort of line up with the coronavirus pandemic too.
Yes.
Yeah. Which would suggest that you're onto something.
And I've had enough prophetic dreams that I know things move backwards in time. Either that or we're going in a straight line and we don't get choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of Eric Wargo's thing, isn't it? That we don't really have free will.
Yeah.
But you disagree with that, I think.
I sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Like I want to disagree with that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure that I actually disagree with him. It's the thing is though, you wouldn't know the difference. Like if it feels like you're making choices, then you wouldn't know you're not making choices.
Yeah, there's Dave Altman says there was a group of kids that had dreams of 9/11 that the FBI looked into. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Well, and also another good example, Soraya, that you might want to think about too is the. I was just talking with a friend the other day about the code names that appeared in British newspaper crossword puzzles just before Operation Overlord on D-Day. There was an entire string that May of crossword puzzles that featured very important, very important code words like Overlord, like Omaha, like Normandy, all these different things would appeared in the same publication if memory serves, which would also again be a huge event, like a history changing event that would sort of create a psychic ripple backwards.
Okay, well, let me ask this question about these huge events. Now, are we dealing with the fact that we're dealing with things that are mass deaths of people, and that causes some kind of psychic rift in and of itself?
I think it's trauma.
So just any kind of trauma. So
Yeah.
if you had something like the Tunguska explosion, right? That didn't really kill anybody, but was in a really isolated area.
I don't think that would have caused the same type of thing, because there was no real trauma there. Because again, it didn't kill anybody. It may have been traumatic to the landscape, but I don't know that we interpret that the same way.
So you two comment here with that Soraya's theory in mind: could ultra-terrestrial beings, fourth dimensional beings, could then see the future past the ripples and work within that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think when we deal with the other, it's not working with time the same way we are.
No, that seems pretty patently apparent.
Yeah.
All right.
Keel noted that way back that they seem to be outside of time.
So let's get to Josh. Josh, what are you going to be talking about at our Strange Realities conference?
The Buzz and the Beast, altered states of consciousness in Bigfoot encounters. The subtitle might change, but I like The Buzz and the Beast. I was going to say psychedelic Bigfoot, which is a lot sexier name, but I don't think I can quite go with that psychedelic label because a lot of these don't seem to be centered around that. But I've long said that the last, paranormal discipline, if you so to speak, that would ever actually fully embrace the problem of consciousness would be cryptozoology, because a lot of them are very materialist minded. They want to capture Bigfoot, they want to find the Mothman eggs. They're convinced that their quarry is something that can be stuffed and mounted in the Smithsonian, quite a few of them. And so I'm exploring the possibility that there could be an altered state experience in the Bigfoot, in sort of the catalog of Bigfoot encounters. A lot of this is looking into the possibility of sound being an instigator in terms of facilitating the altered state of consciousness. There's a real problem amongst the flesh and blood hypothesis crowd that where they like to.
We get to see the eye rolls on these.
I know, right? they like to on the one hand they'll say, well, you can't explain one unknown with another. That's poor science, and that's not very intellectually honest. But the fact of the matter is that at the same time, in the same breath, they'll say that that infrasound is the answer for everything. Infrasound. Oh, you were dizzy. Infrasound. Oh, you were disoriented after your Bigfoot encounter. Infrasound. Oh, you had missing time after your Bigfoot encounter. Infrasound. But and while infrasound is a real thing that certain large predators do employ, we haven't even established that Bigfoot exists, nonetheless that they have the mechanisms to produce infrasound.
Right.
So I found a really interesting thread through several different encounters of some pretty consistent descriptions of sounds immediately preceding these encounters. Sounds that seem to be drone-like. Now, of course, this flies in the face of the fact that you do get the Oz factor in a lot of Bigfoot encounters.
Right.
But you have to sort of accept the fact that not every encounter is necessarily going to adhere to the same parameters. So there does seem to be no shortage of sightings where there is some sort of buzzing sound or droning sound that occurs. And so we're looking at that. And if we have time, we might even dig into some Bigfoot mind speak, which is just fun and goofy, and I love it.
Nice.
Bigfoot mind speaks. So they've gone beyond the Sierra sounds now. Is it?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of mind speak, plenty of really well positioned, well respected Bigfoot researchers and enthusiasts who have described Bigfoot directly, having a telepathic link. And a lot of these messages, if they aren't, I would say that the bulk of these messages are something along the lines of like, don't harm me and I won't harm you, or please don't take a picture of me. Literally. But sometimes, they often sort of fall into that sort of rote 1950s, 1960s contactee sort of message of, unification and environmental respect and things along those lines.
It's just like complete melding with the alien stuff.
Oh
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Remember when they were warning about nuclear war and all this kind of stuff, like Whitley Strieber talks about in Communion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and a lot of that's now it's Bigfoot warning against ecological disaster. It's just like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, the messages are very similar.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's been quite in vogue to sort of invoke the possibility of altered states in regarding UFOs and fairies. But I don't think anybody has really tackled it with Bigfoot before. So I'm really excited to bring that to the fore. And there might be some live demonstrations.
Oh, so you'll be passing out tabs of acid during
No. I might have
you'll have to mail them. Probably.
Right.
You want to send that through the mail, Josh?
It'll be like Oprah. Everybody look under your seats and open up the envelope with the tab of acid in it.
Maybe we could do that at Strange Realities 3, okay? Where everybody's back together again.
The one of my fellow bandmates in Stone Breath, he had his own band, and they used to do a song about Timothy Leary, and they would have this fake sort of mass for Timothy Leary while they played the song. And one time they were playing at this festival, and they had all these sugar cubes, which they had randomly dosed certain sugar cubes with LSD.
Wow.
And people came up to take communion, and they I would never have done that. I feel like that's a lawsuit in the making, but they had randomly dosed certain sugar cubes, and so certain people got a real dose.
Yeah, that gets into issues of consent as well.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, I think people thought it was. I mean, they kind of announced that it was going to be a thing.
Oh, okay.
But they did not announce that only certain ones were going to be. But anyway.
Well, no, it won't be that. It won't be that involved or that impressive.
All right.
but there should be an there should be an audio component to some of those. Yeah.
So
for
this is so is your next book going to be on sound? Are you finally attaching sound?
Huh?
No, because there are people who've done like the paranormal rock stuff and like rock and roll ghosts, and there's a lot of stuff with paranormal music. I don't think. I mean, maybe at some point I'll tackle that, but
You got to get all the senses.
yeah, I know touch is going to be kind of creepy, isn't it? With all those alien abduction stories.
Paranormal bad touch.
Yeah.
Tell us where the Bigfoot touched you.
Exactly. Show me on the doll where the alien touched you, or the alien probed you. But no, actually, my next official thing after Where the Footprints End Volume 2 is I'm curating a book of essays on fairies and cinema. But mostly I would say about half the essays are on films that don't look like fairy films when you set into them, but then if you think of it in that way, it actually ends up the films end up making more sense. So that's
the components are there.
Yeah.
Somebody has a comment here. If Bigfoot is telepathic, why doesn't he telepathically refer people to important writers to explain his existence?
I don't know.
That's because the nature of this stuff is to drive us forwards.
Yeah, or to drive us insane. One of the two.
Yeah.
The hidden. It sounds like the hidden hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, thinking about certain things that I've gone through, I really think that you kind of have to be brought to. I think the best way to. I'll parrot Anne Strieber and say that this has something to do with death, but also ego death, and also being brought to the threshold and being brought to low points, and the number of people who have gone mad looking into this stuff is pretty impressive, and I've only barely dodged the bullet myself, actually. By no real, in my opinion, fault of my own. I was just interested in this stuff, and then things kind of sort of fall apart a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's here there be dragons, I guess.
I like dragons.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah, I do think a lot of this stuff is meant to ask us questions. It's meant to make us investigate our own reality, our own perceptions more. I mean, I know my experiences with it have always been things that drove me forwards in a positive way. And I think part of that is how you embrace it. Like I've said many times, I think the alien abduction experience is a shamanic awakening that is being hijacked by people who think it's a negative experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they're using things like hypnosis to enforce that archetype. So they're unintentionally doing it, but they are turning what could be a very positive growth experience into something to be terrified of.
Or there might very well be a legitimately negative component to a lot of this stuff.
Some of it,
that's
you learn a lot from negativity. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, that's a very I've been thinking a lot about trauma and tragedy in people's lives lately, and it's such a very Western thing to not want to accept the fact that there is that suffering has value, and that's the old atheistic argument of well, how can God exist if this 7-year-old has brain cancer? And as a parent, it's absolutely heart-wrenching, and I get it. But if you're looking at this from a I won't even say 1,000-foot level, I'll say 1 million foot spiritual level. If you're looking at this from the outside of the galaxy, maybe there really is some sort of karmic value in suffering, some sort of spiritual value in suffering. That
suffering challenges us.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not challenged, you tend to get stagnant.
Yes, that's a very resonant message.
I think the happiest and most content I ever was in my life, I was also the most stagnant. And when that ended, it was one of the worst experiences of my life, and it also propelled me forwards the furthest.
Well, you think about any sort of up and coming artist of any kind who wants to get success, and usually once they get success, that's when their output just really tanks.
Yeah.
And it's alchemy, really, is what it is. It's all about, the alchemical process. It's not really about finding the philosopher's stone. It's about the climb up the mountain, not the summit itself.
Yes.
Does that sound like a cat poster now?
It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. But
you should have that as your personal aphorism there on your wall there, Josh.
Unless, of course, you're tired and driving home, then it's totally about the destination and getting there awake.
That's true. That's true. So I'm excited. It's a little bit of a teaser for volume 2 of Where the Footprints End. Because I came to the realization the other day that I've been dealing with this project for longer than my sons have been alive, which is really weird. But we're getting ready to slide into home base here, and I'm really excited.
Tim, they call him Tim.
Yeah.
What is your presentation going to be on at our Strange Realities conference?
I don't know.
Actually, I think Tim prefers to be called Samuel.
What?
Yeah, I just heard that somewhere.
I'm missing that one.
Other days he likes to be called Randy, but I guess you can call him Tim.
Yeah. You can call him Tim.
Either on gifting and the Bigfoot phenomenon, or I'm actually leaning more towards doing something on disappearing evidence.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty nice. Is there a place where those two intersect?
I mean, yeah, in our books, but generally, yeah, I mean, quite possibly, I'm sure I could think of some example where, gifting and disappearing evidence have those Venn diagrams, I'm sure, cross, but, I mean, they would be two separate presentations. It's just a matter of me choosing which one I want to do.
When you talk about disappearing evidence, what is it all kinds of evidence? Is it all across the board, or is it
it tends to happen
things
throughout the paranormal? But I would be focusing, just because the focus of the book is Bigfoot phenomena, I would be focusing on its expression in the Bigfoot phenomena.
Okay, so we're gonna end this thing basically with Bigfoot.
I mean, it's like as you said last year, Adam. It's the epoch of Bigfoot. There's
there he is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he's
nice. But no, in all seriousness, I feel like it was in like the 90s that you used to see, the gray alien everywhere. That was like the cool iconography.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just Bigfoot everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I was up in the mountains of Georgia at a location where I would not expect to see a lot of Bigfoot paraphernalia, and I totally saw a bunch of Bigfoot bumper stickers and shirts and all sorts of stuff. It's taken over in a big way.
Yep.
Well, Josh, you and I were up there, and we were down at the Expedition Bigfoot.
Right.
Not really that long ago, if you really think about it. And then I went back, and I love how you guys, especially you, Tim, like you typify Expedition Bigfoot as like basically a shrine.
That wasn't me. That was me quoting Josh, who was quoting, was it Metcalf?
David Metcalf, yeah. That was Metcalf's observation. Yeah, I gave him credit in the book. But yeah, finish your thought, Adam. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, just like because there's the whole thing about Bigfoot, the shrine to Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden Bigfoot appears.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had a couple of interactions with the owner of the museum, David Bacara, who's a real nice guy, and he it has really has all the trappings of a temple. It has sacred relics. It's a place for believers to gather. It's a place for non-believers to be converted. And he put it he put this Bigfoot museum in North Georgia, which is a Bigfoot hotspot. Go fig. So it has all the earmarks that you would expect from a pagan shrine.
I mean, they've even taken Bigfoot poop and put it on display. Like it's even like literally the excrement of this creature. They're like, ooh,
Yeah.
There's like a 2-foot shellacked Bigfoot poop in there, which sounds kind of goofy until you see it, and it's still goofy, but but when you see it, you're like, oh, that is kind of strange. I mean, I've never had a continuous 2-foot poop, so
it was much bigger than Abraham Lincoln's poop, which was in the Dye Museum up here.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I did not see that.
Abraham Lincoln's poop.
I went there.
It was
I didn't
supposed.
see Abraham Lincoln poop.
It was supposed to be Abraham Lincoln's last poop. At some point, they analyzed it though, and they found Necco wafers in it.
Time travel, Soraya. There you go.
And so they figured it could not, in fact, be Abraham Lincoln's poop because Necco wafers came post Lincoln, not terribly long after Lincoln.
Well, I was about to say if you could analyze Lincoln's poop and analyze Bigfoot's poop, would you come to the same conclusions? I was going to say, would there be a similarity there? Because Lincoln was a rather tall man for his time.
Maybe he was really Bigfoot, but shaved down nicely.
Yes.
He is,
our first Sasquatch president.
He is my third cousin, Abraham Lincoln.
Cool.
Really?
Third cousin, 3 times removed. Yes, we share a grandparent somewhere way back.
So you are really Bigfoot in disguise.
So related to your talk, Josh, has there ever been any mushrooms popping up on Bigfoot's feces?
Oh, I can't say for certain. No, and the number of this is something I look for in the book when I was doing this chapter that this is an excerpt of, more or less an adapted excerpt of. I was really looking for Bigfoot appearing in trips, and I didn't really I don't tell the places, Arrowwood and the Blue Vault, that these old places where you find trip reports, and scoured them and only found just 1 or 2 things. So that was a little bit disappointing, but it's interesting. There's if you've seen I work another reference to this film in in the second book, and I'm really proud that I was able to do it. If you've ever seen Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny, it's I referenced it in another chapter, but that was what Jack Black sees when he has his mushroom trip, as he sees Bigfoot that he calls Papageno, and they have a big trippy Bigfoot experience where culminating in a float in the Strawberry River. So, but I've asked around, not just going to those websites. I've actually asked people, I've asked people whom I would think would have heard about this, to not get too specific, and nobody's ever really come into any reports of people seeing like large hairy hominids in their trips. It's not a common thing. Again, I found a handful, but it seems I'm more interested in this case in sort of the mechanism that could possibly be happening, and there are weird buzzes.
What an interesting cross section there. I mean, that's cross pollination between 2 or 3 different things, Josh.
Well, you say that. I'm behind deadline. I'm preparing the presentation, so I know what it needs to be done. I just need to sort of tighten up the.
Yeah, well, you're fine. According to Soraya, we still got 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. We're still in July. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's like July 22nd or something like that.
Well, I mean, it was 90 degrees out today. It's got to still be July.
Well, it's kind of funny. I originally was not supposed to be able to do this because I was supposed to have a gig in Washington State.
Yes.
And so, ironically enough, the same thing that made the conference have to go virtual is the same thing that allowed me to be here, because that particular engagement, thankfully, got punted to next year. So
Yeah. Yeah, we're glad that you're on board with us again this year, Josh, for sure.
it's going to be exciting. Is there going to be a virtual after party? Or
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have a few probably.
Awesome. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
You give us some
We've
tuba.
got-
Yeah, I'll give you some tuba.
Okay.
yeah.
I'll make that happen. Yeah. You know, well, let me talk to you afterwards. Maybe I can line up no, never mind. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see.
Tuba and banjo, man. No wonder Tim and I forged an alliance in hell. It's like that Far Side cartoon where they open up the outhouse and there's a tuba player and a banjo player sitting in there together, and a bunch of people with pitchforks and torches.
So what we're going to do with that is since everybody's going to be on the private Facebook group that everybody's going to be watching the conference on, I will make a Zoom call while we're, schedule a Zoom call while everything's going on, and I'll just post that, and then anybody that wants to join, they can join in, and we'll just have like kind of a big party at the Saturday night, and we're gonna do it on Sunday night too.
That sounds like so much fun. That sounds
so
like a lot of fun.
So that we can just, what we want to try to do is like kind of try to replicate that feeling of being part of a conference. So just like instead of just like being just tied to just watching the presentations, which are great, but part of the like we had so much fun last year outside and talking to each other, and that's sort of the big part of it. And it's going to be kind of I think it's going to be a little stressful, us putting this thing on. I mean, this is a big thing. We got a lot of people, but in some ways it may not be as big of a deal as doing it live, because there's so much stuff you got to just like coordinate. I was telling Surfiel that when we restreamed all the presentations from last year, we did that nearly a couple of weeks ago now. When we did that, I was like, man, I missed so much because I was outside taking care of this thing. I was making sure the pizza got delivered. I was making sure that nobody went over on time, and was keeping my eye on the clock, and putting this thing out and doing this thing. And so I didn't get to see a lot of it, but it was like some really great presentations from last year from you guys, and especially the one that you guys did at the end on where the footprints in Joel's presentation.
Thank you. I have to admit, I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not live again this year. I mean, for obvious reasons, but also just for the fact that you guys really knocked it out of the park your first year. It really, I think it's the most on time conference that I've ever been to. So
yeah, because I had definitely been to conferences myself where like things did not go on time, and it really so about a month before, I think I've told this story before. About a month before, we went to this thing in Knoxville, and Ray Hernandez spoke at this, right? And they had screwed up the timing so much. They just let people just go on and on and on, and they had messed up the timing that when Ray got up there, and he had like the best presentation of the whole thing, talking about the free study and about the parallels between alien contact experience and also near-death experience. And he only got like 45 minutes. I think he got cut short. And then they put the guy right after him was this old dude that believed that he was a Martian super soldier and that he was stationed on Mars. And they let that guy talk for like an hour and a half. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Are you serious? You like he was talking about so much. Ray Hernandez was talking about some really important stuff that he really should have gotten so much. He should have had it easily an hour and a half up there just to talk about that. And then they just let this guy just go on and on and on because it was the last one of the day, and it was like everybody was tired. But we were just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, but you're also doing doing the outrageous story.
Yeah.
Common denominator.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
it's and yeah, but I've seen it happen time and again, where really like great presentations get shortchanged. I know that Tim and I were at a conference where Eric Wargo didn't get to. He had to rush through his presentation, which is something that we both really wanted to see, and I think we kind of both felt a little bit bad, Tim and I, because we had given the presentation before, and really wasn't our fault, to be honest. It was just the whole thing was running behind on the offset. We didn't even start. I think it was like a full hour after presentation.
Yeah,
the
presentation was exactly as long as we said it was going to be, as we were scheduled for.
Right.
We had started late, and if they had told us before we started, like, "Hey, you guys need to rush,"
we could have,
yeah, we're going to split this time between you and Eric, we would have done so. But we weren't told that, and consequently, I don't think he was very happy. When I feel badly about that.
Yeah, still do. Yeah. So anyway, everybody run on time. That's the lesson.
Well, and the really good part about doing it online this time is that for next year, if everything gets back to semi-normal, we can do a hybrid. And so we're learning this now, but then in the future we can have the best of both worlds, and that'll be really cool.
Yeah, you can have a live speaker and then just project a call in. Yeah,
it's one of the weird advantages. Again, COVID's a bad thing, but because of it, it has pushed how we use technology and how we can do things in this situation. And it's not, we'll still have that when COVID lifts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can get someone here in the chat was saying they're in South America, and they can attend because it's virtual.
Yep.
So yeah, next year you can do it live in person, so people who want to come out can come out. But you can also be projecting that to people who are in other countries and stuff and can't make it, and charge them a little less for coming on virtually.
That's kind of where we're going. What we're thinking about is that we're going to do kind of a hybrid thing. And what you're talking about, how people are starting to kind of innovate. SIR, where we did it last year, they are now have a guy on staff because people have started doing live streams from SIR. Mm-hmm. So they've got a guy on there now that is doing that just solely and specifically. And so we could actually do the whole thing online, but have a portion of it live. So maybe do 1 day live / online, and then another day just solely online. So
I'm sorry, I guess he's in South Australia, not South America.
South Australia, yeah. So
and SheCon's in the Middle East. So yeah, I mean, it makes it more international. I mean, it's hard for people to travel, across the world if they want to be involved in something like this.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And plus another thing too, guys, having 20 speakers, 21 speakers actually. I never could have done that. I don't think. Because we had we had 9, I think, or 8 speakers, 9 presentations last year, and that was having to fly people out and all that kind of stuff, and get the Airbnb for you guys, which we were happy to do. But it's this year we can have more people because I think it's going to be really great. And I'm glad to have all 3 of you guys part of it.
Well, it's an honor to be a part of the lineup. It's pretty stacked. So thank you for having me.
A lot of this really, I don't think would have happened without any of you guys, because Josh and Tim, you guys were part of the first one and agreed to do it and agreed to come to Nashville. And we had a great time with you guys. And then Soraya, I never would have heard of any of these people without you, man.
The Godfather of that's what the cat's. That's what the cat's for.
There we go.
Podcasting.
And Soraya was actually going to come to Nashville. We had actually talked him into it and everything, and then all of a sudden, everything happened. So
and then you had to get COVID in here.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah. Of course, you're the one that said that they have it. You had it, so
I did have it. Yes.
Have you confirmed that? 100%.
It's 100% as you can confirm it.
Well, you got the antibody test, Soraya?
No, I got an antibody test and it came up negative.
Okay, so maybe
However,
maybe
I
you
had-
just had the Martian flu.
Yeah. Well, I had the exact same symptoms that Tom Hanks had.
So it's you were withdrawing from your adrenochrome, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no, Tom Hanks. Be careful. This is going to be on YouTube, Josh. It is.
Yeah, I know.
No.
I was told that the antibody tests are not particularly good if you get them taken too late or too early, or if you don't have a very severe case. And I didn't have a very severe case. It sucked,
Interesting.
but it was not like what Tom Hanks was in the hospital.
Right.
I know a couple other people who had the same thing I did. Some of them were exposed to people with COVID. The actual COVID tests are awful. It's worse than flipping a coin. There's a woman, I was reading an article on a woman in Texas who her husband had it. Her son ended up getting it, even though she was the only one he was exposed to. She was a nurse. She got 7 negatives in a row. And then afterwards got the antibody test and had positive antibodies.
Well, and
Yeah,
then
you
there
were
was
telling me about that the other night too.
Yeah.
when we were doing Road to the Road Go. Yeah.
The testing is absolutely abysmal. So the antibody tests, you have to get it taken at the right time before your body starts getting rid of the antibodies, because it's sensitive only to a certain number of antibodies.
well, and the I think it was the president of Tanzania announced that both a goat and a pawpaw had tested positive for COVID. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's not spend too much time on COVID, guys. I'm so tired of talking about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future. Look forward to everything that we're doing. So, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this tonight,
Absolutely.
and also serves as a way to familiarize with you what you're doing. Okay, so let's go down the line. Soraya, tell everybody where they can find Where Did the Road Go, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
wheredidtheroadgo.com, and you can find me mostly on Facebook if you want to find me. There's links to email me and stuff on the Where Did the Road Go page. I don't know if there's a Facebook link, but you can find me easy on Facebook.
Yes. I mean, there's not too many people named Soraya Askath out there. So,
Exactly.
all right, Mr.
I think it's just facebook.com/askath, honestly.
Yeah. And Mr. Cutchin.
You can find me at joshuacutchin.com. And there's going to be a bunch of big things coming down the line real soon, I think.
Cool.
Okay. And Mr. Renner.
StrangeFamiliars.com. That's my podcast, and all the contact information for that goes to me.
What's coming up on Strange Familiars?
You think I planned that far ahead? I think this week is another installment of Through the Haunted Forest, meeting another Bigfoot witness on location in Michaud Forest, and then and we'll see what else happens there.
Cool.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Stay here with us. We're going to close this out because this is still a show. So just a reminder, guys, thanks you for listening to the Conspiranormal, and also a reminder, Strange Familiars, StrangeRealitiesConference.com.
Look,
Go
strange.
there, and you can see it in the back. There's a Strange Familiars shirt. There's too much strange going on here.
Woo.
We are streaming online to 25th, 26th, and 27th. And tickets are available for only $20, and that's for 21 speakers, including these 3 gentlemen that have so kindly joined us tonight.
Woo.
So Patreon is up there. You can join that for $1. And anything that you want to add, Sir Phil, before we take off?
No, just everyone that you saw or heard on this episode, it just further drives all the different topics that we're going to have. So it's really all over the place, and should be a very, very fun time.
All right. Join us next week, guys, when we're going to have like a even bigger show. It's all spread out throughout the day with the rest of the guys and the guys from the Strange Realities Conference coming up September 25th, 26th, and 27th. StrangeRealitiesConference.com. See you later.
Absolutely. Yep.